Hey, it is
That was awesome.
Someone had a lot of time over the holidays.
Oh man,
Nice work, Evelio.
New intro, super quick intro.
And to all of our fans in Belarus, hello.
That's right.
We're now welcome. No more daddy fingers. No more daddy fingers.
Whatever that was, right?
We're now live in Belarus. Yeah. To all
one of our
Belarus,
favorite countries, also where Evelio grew up, I believe.
Yeah,
I did.
All
went to middle school.
Nieces, nephews at Belarus Middle School and Junior High. Welcome.
That's what it was called. That's right.
Welcome to the Packaging Today show.
That's right. We were the polar bears.
They speak French, right? Yeah.
I don't. Maybe there's probably people in Belarus who speak French.
Some people.
It's unlikely, but possible.
Yeah. This episode is actually being sponsored by the government of Belarus. For all of your vacations, consider Belarus. Where is it? Nobody knows.
The white beaches of Belarus.
Belarus.
What's up, guys? All right, so
we gotta have somebody on from that country.
Like
somebody who's making killer packaging in Belarus.
Bonjour, Chris.
Good morning, Chris. How's it going? All right, guys, what do we got going on? It's January 6th. New Year's just over. Now it's time to get to work. A lot going on in packaging. But first, for our listeners, where are you listening from? Where are you watching from? Chris, we know you're in Colorado.
Beautiful.
How far are we reaching with this? That'll be great to know. And how was your New Year's? So Adam, what do we got going on? What's the latest?
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, I did have a different headline, but it looked silly, so I just turned it back. But I made a bit of a career transition that I got to talk about on LinkedIn. So it's been fun to be able to figure out what the next phase of my life is going to be. So I'm going to be doing, starting to do some consulting, which I'm trying to figure out what that means. I remember when I was in college and I got a business degree from the Colorado State University. What's up, Ashley? And who is it? Was it Asher? Oh, it was Asher. I thought it was. Oh, yeah. Hi, Asher. Not Ashley. My fault. Your name is Happy.
Nashville.
And in Nashville, yeah. Asher is Happy in Nashville. What's up, John?
Yeah.
And in business school, everybody said, when I grow up, I want to be a consultant. It was like the most popular answer was like, I want to do consulting. Yeah. And I remember my professor was like, you have to have a thing. You can't just be a
consultant.
Right. You can't just like, I'm going to help you. But it's been cool. I've had a lot of really positive outreach, a bunch of, new exciting things that should be announced here in the next, couple months, I hope. It's a different, I've had a lot of people reach out like, oh, do you want to be like a 1099? Like, do you want to sell stuff for us? That's not what I'm trying to do. A lot of strategy, a lot of either sales strategy or operational strategy for CPGs, new market development. I've had a couple companies reach out about opening up some new markets. So it's been a lot of fun. So thanks everybody for the positivity coming into the new year. It was a little nerve-wracking because of my one wife and 5 kids, and I'm the only person who makes any money in this podcast because
you're on this
makes $0. Yeah, well, Weenus Lube is we've made tens of dollars selling Weenus Lube over the years, but not quite enough to facilitate the family's living. But it was cool that Myers was very excited. I had people reach out. They were like, so was this something? And it was like, no, this was my idea. Myers was super supportive. Chris and Michael have been fantastic. They were like, sign us up first. We love what you're doing. And so it's been great to be able to continue to work with them. I just want to put that out there. It wasn't like, I was trying to like skate over being fired or something. There was nothing nefarious about it at all. They were my first client. So it's been really good. So that's what's awesome, new with me.
How are you, Cory?
2025. By the way, just 25, right, Evelio?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
All the kids call it 25.
It's just 25. It's just
I
25.
just call it 5. That's how cool I am. So sorry.
Wow.
Cinco.
Wow.
If you're cool. If
If you're
Spanish.
super cool.
Yeah, if you're really cool. No,
Yeah.
I'm really excited. What a great year 24 was. And I think 2025 is going to be the best
25.
year yet. Yeah,
25.
25. Cinco. Lots of big things happening this year. I'm thrilled to be attending certain events like Paris Packaging Week this month. Evelio, I know you'll be there too. Get to speak at the UN in Japan in February, which is like
Let's go.
a lifelong dream of mine and something I've always wanted to do and be a part of, to support not only Oregon, where I live, and the U.S., but the world, and help them encourage sustainable packaging globally. So that's the UN environmental program over there in Japan. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to visiting Osaka, Japan. And then we'll also be at the SpecRite Summit in Nashville, which is Nashville, which will be really exciting in February. Yeah, very, very much looking forward to this year. How about you, Evelio?
No, that's awesome, man. I did grow up in Japan, but
I know. I'm staying with your uncle.
That's right.
Shishmalio. Yeah.
No.
That doesn't work.
Cory, I have a question for you going into 2025, or Evelio.
Yeah.
What is up with the EPR rollout for Oregon? Because I feel like I bring this up with brands and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I think you have to start paying the state. Yeah. And they're like, we do? I'm like, well, if you don't know,
it starts this summer. You're right. It is happening.
Okay, so it is this summer. Is it for,
but it's already rolled out in like out east. It's already, there's a couple of states that are already charging.
In Maine,
yeah.
There are Oregon will be the first one that will charge, to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts. So my suggestion is 2 things: sign up for the Circular Action Alliance.
You have to register, right?
You have to register right now. Don't wait. If you're a producer or a supplier, or if you're shipping anything, or if, it's like that old that movie. I don't want to buy anything. I don't want to sell anything. If you're anything in the industry, you should reach out and sign up and say, are we producers, quote unquote? And if the Circular Action Alliance says yes, then you need to learn about all these details and all the materials. For example, Oregon outlawed polystyrene packaging as of now. Right now, you can't use it for to-go containers for restaurants. But
specifically, so if you've got like inserts or anything like that are in other types of packaging, then
there's going to be an easement period. I don't know exactly the details of how long they'll let you do it. I think they're going to let you use up your old stock. I think it would be less sustainable to throw everything away that you had made already. But they haven't done the best job of telling everybody, like Adam said, about what's going on. People are scared. They're very nervous. So reach out to the CAA, reach out to Lorax EPI. They can help you plan your future there. But there are companies like that help.
So obviously, if you're a restaurant that is in Oregon, it's pretty cut and dry, right? Like, don't buy any more polystyrene, take out containers, buy something else. Okay, cool. If you are a multinational company and if you go register with CAA, do they tell you, it's like, okay, how much are you shipping into Oregon? Is that what it is?
Yes.
I don't even know how, like, it seems like it's such a complicated.
It's incredibly complicated. And that's why we need to know our data and have a service like SpecRite to know.
This is not a commercial for SpecRite, by the way. I'm legitimately curious, just so everybody knows.
You need to know.
I didn't feel like a setup, because but it is true. It's like,
if you don't know,
how do you know?
You're going to be fined. And that's the answer.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you money. And the old adage of hit them in their wallets, this is really going to change behavior. And I think that's the positive.
Or pricing, right?
Yeah.
Because they can just keep bringing in polystyrene and then just charge whatever the fine is and just roll out to the customer. So instead of paying 99 cents for a large Coke, you're paying now $1.25.
Very true. It's going to affect consumers as much as they don't want it to. I think it's going to.
Interesting. So if I maybe we should probably have somebody on we should have Lydia or Michelle on from Lorax, because I'm or somebody from Ameripen. I know they're doing a bunch of reporting on EPR, because I'm getting a lot of questions, and I'm a terrible consultant apparently, because I legitimately don't know. We should get to this question from Hassan. It's like, okay, so if I'm selling products D2C on Amazon, I have no idea where my stuff, and if I'm, say Dude Wipes as an example, they do a lot of business on TikTok Shop. They do. How does Oregon know how much packaging is shipping into Oregon? And how does Dude Wipes know if they're selling through TikTok, Shopify, and the like? It seems easier to be like, okay, retail, but even the retail sales are hard to track by state, because it's all through distribution networks and things. It just feels like there's got to be a lot that's still working on behind the scenes to make this simple to know, okay, we did X and we owe the state Y.
Right.
But I don't know what those answers are.
But then you've also got people that are importing packaging that might be coming through a port, that's not being delivered in Oregon. So like, how do you define, okay, I'm only 10% of what I've brought in is staying in Oregon. The rest of it's going to Vancouver, like onwards out of state. And how do you charge for that? So getting back to Hussein's question here, isn't there a scheme administrator to educate and regulate?
Regulators.
I'm having somebody from the Circular Action Alliance on the podcast, the Sustainable Packaging podcast, soon, and we'll post about it. We'll talk about it. We'll answer these questions, I hope. But from what I've learned from Michelle and the team at Lorax, and a lot of it will be based on percentages. So let's say you're shipping 100,000 pounds of plastic. You estimate that approximately 15% of that will go to Oregon, just on your usage for the last 5 years, or your shipments for the last 5 years. So that will be enough for the Circular Action Alliance today. They will accept that as gospel, because your history proves it. So there's things like that are being done to accommodate these very difficult questions right now.
Interesting. Yeah, it has to be some kind of assumption.
No,
right?
like,
It sucks for the brands, and it sucks for the scheme, because it's like, if you can't, it would be like saying, like, I'm going to assume that I've paid 20% taxes, and they're like, that's good enough for us. You don't know anything. It's like, oh, great, that was nice.
Yeah, I had Paul Kearns on the podcast. He works with the team called Anthesis, and they're managing a ton of EPR for a lot of the brands, like getting them hooked up with the PROs and helping them define their specs and kind of getting into the details of like how much they actually have to pay. And it's like there's a lot of companies out there that are working to connect brands with the PROs and help them manage their specs.
Yep.
But there's still so much complication, right? It's like, at what point, it's like, how do you make this simple, right? Where it is just maybe a percentage. And then I'm assuming that you've got to have polystyrene manufacturers in Oregon. Like, how does that affect that business? I mean,
not to my
knowledge,
knowledge,
it's like 100%.
I know 2 companies in California, 2 DART packaging locations that were creating styrofoam packaging have closed in the last 3 months.
Wow.
So that's a big shift. They were one of the largest manufacturers of styrofoam bowls and cups and things like that. I think a lot of this is a very simple shift away from those hard to recycle materials.
Is it expanded polystyrene or just polystyrene?
Great question. I think it's both.
because there's the majority of graphic packaging coffee cup lids are polystyrene.
Yeah.
And Oregon, obviously, there's a lot of coffee being consumed there.
Yeah.
So
a lot of it's moving to polypropylene. A
Yeah.
lot of it's changing to molded pulps and different things like that.
But this is just packaging, right? Because like it looks like in Oregon, you guys have a ton of EPS construction foam.
The styrofoam law is separate from the Circular Action Alliance, I believe. The ban on styrofoam is a separate law from the Circular Action Alliance, the EPR legislation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's crazy that the amount of EPS that's being produced for construction in Oregon.
Oh yeah, well,
right?
But that's a great product for construction. That makes sense. It's you want something that will last forever, right? So I think that's where plastics come in, and we say, okay, this building will be here for 100 years. We want something that will last that long, and that will hold up, and that will be resistant to bugs and water and things like that.
What happens when we replace construction with paper as we paperize everything, right?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah,
cardboard buildings.
Your corrugated roof is not going to last in the Northwest. Yeah,
it's made out of paper for sure. But I believe that Cory will be the first person to line up. What do we got some comments here?
What do we got from Hugh?
Yeah, what does Hugh say?
We got
hey Hugh.
This quote was on the CAA website. CAA was founded in 2022 or 22 by the 18 producers representing the food, beverage, and consumer goods and retail industries. CAA is the only organization approved to implement U.S. EPR laws for paper and packaging and is operating as the single PRO in California and Colorado.
It's the only PRO for every state, right? So far.
At the moment, yeah.
In America, there's several in Canada, I believe, and Europe has 18, to my knowledge. And they are all specified into a unique material, which makes
Start Pro in USA.
Yeah,
done.
Well, and they're a nonprofit, right? But they've hired dozens of people. It seems like every other day on my feed in LinkedIn, new position, Circular Action Alliance. And it's because I think it's an overwhelming job and task. So I'm excited to interview them.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm reminded, having been on a few nonprofit boards, that nonprofit does not mean you don't make any profit. It's a tax. That's a tax statement. It's not like, oh, any profit has to like be disseminated across. It's plenty of nonprofits make. They should. I'm not saying they shouldn't make money. You need to be able to hire really good people and all that stuff. So, but
and like you suggested, consultants. Like I don't know if you know any, Adam, that would consult with.
Why do you think I'm trying to get information, fellas? This is my free education here.
If you're listening from the CAA,
feed me the information so I can give it to you, the people. I feel like Bane. Like, give it back to you.
Do you know who I am? Yeah.
Do you feel in charge?
All right, man. So definitely keep an eye out on what's happening in 2025, because I think there's going to be a lot of change. I think we will start seeing new PROs develop, because right now, even Maine's having to use this one, even though it's not necessarily regulating that specific area. They're going to each state's going to have its own. It's going to get really complicated, and that's the challenge. It would almost be better if there was just one to manage the entire country, versus trying to divide it all up and just have different groups within it. But
or a federal law, and just get rid of every state by state thing and just have everybody just knows what they have to do, and then we can move.
That's right. Get rid of all the states, Adam. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. We said
independence
conversations on this.
Freedom.
Yeah. All right, man. So then, kind of just shifting new stuff. Just this popped up online this morning. It's we kind of just touched jokingly on paperization. There's a lot of companies that are moving away from plastics and replacing it with paper. We've seen the paper bottles, which still have plastic in them. We've seen You know, a lot of paper replacing bubble wrap, product overwrap with paper versus plastics. And that's just been like standard paper. We've seen like the soluble paper, the stuff that dissolves in water. That's been kind of like one shift, but then there's now the opposite of that, which is like water resistant paper. There's company, and this is in scitechdaily.com today, talking about new water resistant papers. I'm going to share my, actually, I'm not going to share my screen because there's a bunch of toilets and weird ads on here.
Share it.
But
sponsored by Dude Wipes.
Oh yeah.
The water resistant paper, right? So paper that you can get wet, resistant, not proof. It'll get wet. It slowly can seep through if it's like soaked. Talking about rain or just standard moisture, humidity, product inside will still remain protected. There's no plastic in here. It's taking the cellulose from tree fibers, and they're doing something a little bit different with it. Of course, this is coming out of Aalto University in Finland, but they're also working with the Polytechnic University in Milan to create this new stuff. I'm working with it on a couple brands out of Europe, and what it's doing is it's replacing. It's being used to replace poly mailers, right? So the stuff it's almost tear resistant. I would say it's like puncture resistant to like 80%. It doesn't stretch, but also it doesn't tear easily. It's water resistant. You can have an adhesive on it, but it does recycle with paper. It does go through the pulping process. Because it's water resistant, it does take longer to go through that process and be recycled. So it's interesting, but it is a little heavy, not a little heavier. It is heavier than a poly mailer. So you get into the thicker material, the weight, the overall volume when you compare one to one, then shipping costs, all these different things kind of tackle. And I think for every brand, we've talked about this before, it's like every brand, it really matters what you define sustainability as, right? Because there's no one answer. It's not carbon footprint versus recycling or eliminating packaging or any of that kind of stuff. It's like every brand is different. What does it mean to you? So in this case, the brand's trying to eliminate plastic throughout its entire supply chain. Great opportunity. If it was trying to reduce its carbon footprint, then maybe this wouldn't be the right direction. And I think that's a balance that we all kind of have to take on.
It's the classic issue with the paperization, right? Is it more sustainable? Does the LCA really prove that it's a lower carbon footprint? Do we worry about that? Are we more focused on the future of the material, hoping to keep those fibers in play, as our packaging scientist friend Russell always would say? Keeping the recyclable materials in the system, is that the most important thing? Yeah. Or is the lowest carbon footprint to make the material in the first place the most important number?
Yeah, because LCAs don't prove papers better than plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But over long term, does it matter that it's going to actually get recycled?
And that's the thing that LCAs don't.
And that's measure. What I'd like to mention as a caveat to that LCA number, which is why LCAs aren't the end all be all to all the world of packaging.
Yeah. They stop at like delivery.
Right.
Everything else is not measured within an LCA.
Right.
Yeah, but I will say that if you're going to try to get to some sort of objective measurement, the hard part is that there's a story with recycling that has data, but it's like, we're pretty sure that our stuff's getting recycled, but obviously you have no way of knowing.
Right.
And so that's why an LCA stops, is because it's only talking about knowable data.
Yeah.
Everything else is like it's a guess, so even paper has not the best, not certain, and Ryan Fox has been on here before. He's told us all about
not 100%, right?
It's not even close. So, and plastic, it's funny because if you look at plastic recycling, it's all lumped together. So all plastic is lumped together versus like clear PET plastic. is a much higher recycling rate than polystyrene plastic. So it's like we talk about plastics, it's like all plastic is only recycled at, whatever it is, less than 8%.
Yeah.
And then paper is not spoken of that way. So I think it's that's why I think that these LCAs are used, is because it's really the only way to go. In terms of this product, does it print pretty well? How does it go
Yeah, it prints.
through
Yeah, it
like
prints
normal?
amazing.
Like it prints, you don't have to slow down the press, you don't have
Nope.
to use
Prints
special ink.
amazing. You can do digital. You can do foiling. You can do a ton of I mean, it's
That's a
basic.
surprise. That's
paper.
cool.
Yeah, it
So
looks great.
so
Doesn't bleed.
But here's the question, right? So let's say you're using a water-based offset ink
Mhm.
on this paper that is water resistant. It seems like you would have to coat the paper first with some sort of treatment in order for the water-based inks to be there. Like those two things don't really match, right? Like this is water resistant and we're using a water-based ink, or we're using an aqueous varnish. It wouldn't actually be received into I love Kirk coming in with some AI references. Those would be Allen Iverson.
Hey, Kirk.
But that would be one question. And the reason I'm asking is this was
Yeah.
a while ago. There was a paper, it's still around. I think it's called stone paper.
That's the worst.
It's made out of like calcium carbonate, but
Yeah.
it's no water, no trees, no plastics. That was their whole thing, right?
But it is plastic.
There's something in it, and it's super heavy. It's very difficult to print on. The presses don't really like this. So we're not talking about that.
No.
We're not talking about.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. And on stone paper, I did a ton of packaging with, like, I did a ton of test packaging with stone paper. I'd say like 15 years ago. Ran it. It looked great. The thing about that is it breaks down within 6 months. So like once you actually produce it, warehouse it, it's breaking down. And if there's any light, if there's any like humidity changes, that stuff gets super brittle, and it gets to the point where it just shatters.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we did the research on that, and it was like it's calcium carbonate, but it's bound by plastic, which is the thing. And it's plastic.
But
with an
it was water resistant, right? I mean, if I recall,
yeah, for 100%.
Did they say it was recyclable?
It
no.
is, but not in the paper stream. And I will say, because there was somebody who commented on this recently as well. The benefit that I could see is that the calcium carbonate source was actually industrial waste. So it was a bunch of industrial waste that was in, I want to say, Thailand was the primary source of it, that was just going to go to a landfill and they could repurpose it and use it for paper. So I was like, that's a benefit. I mean, it's not all bad, but I just wanted to be clear. What Evelio is talking about is not the same thing as
no. These are fibers from the actual trees. It's just like it's a similar paper process, but you're using different fibers within it. Which, I mean, it prints great. It's just like a clay coated. Think of like a clay coated sheet. You're still printing on it. You still print on it with water-based inks. You're not going to get, the difference is it's gonna pull into the fibers versus like a clay coat, which is going to sit on top and can potentially rub off or scrape off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's the same process. Every test that I've seen done on this stuff is amazing. I think we just produced about 500,000 of these items. So
sweet.
The tests have been done. This thing's delivering, and it works really well.
There's a label material as well that is made by UPM Raflatac that is it's a BOPP, but there's no fossil fuels, so it's actually made from the paper, like the sludge from paper that is when you make the paper, it's normally going away, so they can re-engineer that and turn it into a BOPP label. Wow. I think it's called forest film. So you can get a really nice clear label that's made from no fossil fuels or plastic. Even though it turns into, that's the hard part about plastic, is like yeah, this is paper-based plastic. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well,
Right.
that's what it's just an engineering thing. I mean, it's all
And
carbon at the
marketing.
end of the day. And marketing, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's still the source of the material is not petroleum. It's not fossil fuels. It's coming from paper. So it's not
Well, that's like Sway, right? Where they say that this is plastic. It's not plastic, but when they say it's not plastic, they mean it's not petroleum. Um, but it's still plastic. It's literally plastic.
it's still plastic in the sense, but
No.
like that's why we shouldn't demonize the word plastic, because it's all it's there's a whole bunch of ways to get to that word.
Mhm.
I like what Hassan
Yeah.
says here.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So, LCAs are more polarizing than, and insert your favorite issue here, because we need to
Politics.
consider, we need to consider water consumption and deforestation. So, we've kind
Yeah.
of talked about this before, where paperization is not necessarily the solution, right? You're replacing one material for another. But again, it kind of goes back to what's important to your brand. What are you trying to get after? Because if it is it carbon footprint reduction? Is it increasing recycling? Is it just eliminating plastic for the sake of eliminating plastic? Like, there's a million different reasons why somebody would make a change. But if you're looking at the LCA comparatively, yeah, you're using more water, you're using trees, which are coming from somewhere. And then you've got to go down the path of making sure that your timber is coming from a protected source. We've seen a ton of trees and forests that are being cut down, like throughout Europe, illegally, because of just different illegal logging throughout South America. So having to have some kind of control at that stage is important as well.
To be fair, though, the Triac Compass tool does account for that.
Mhm.
So it does look at water consumption. You can put in there, where is the paper sourced from? So there's a bunch of different options in their LCA tool to help get to the closest number possible. And it still
Yeah.
doesn't look favorably upon paper. Just, it's not like that is some sort of magic thing
Right.
that
Yeah,
happens.
and that's triac.com.
Yeah,
you go check that out.
Trayak.
Yeah.
And in the
You
end,
check that out too.
if the consumer doesn't buy it, it doesn't matter.
And if they don't recycle it, it doesn't matter.
It's the perception of
Yeah.
sustainability that we're trying to encourage. So showing that hey, this is actually sustainable, and they've done tests. Is the shampoo more sustainable because it comes in a paper box than this one that comes in a plastic bottle? Well, there's a plastic bottle inside the paper box. And the one with the paper box, the consumer thought that was more sustainable, but it's way less sustainable because it has way more material.
Mhm.
So we're fighting a battle here that's going to take a long time.
No,
Looks like we
absolutely.
got some
Absolutely.
questions and comments here to get to, then we can.
Yeah, we got
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year from, I'm like, H&Y. Happy New Year from Canada. A lot of UK companies charge per pallet for
Canadian.
any pallet that comes in with single-use plastics on them, for example, stretch wrap or strap. Are we seeing any of this in the US yet? Are you guys seeing anybody charging for stretch wrap? I know we had that issue in Europe.
No, that'll be a part of EPR laws, though. The total number of pounds of plastic that you're shipping. So the answer is yes, soon.
Yeah, and
What about
there's degrees of like how harsh are the materials that you're using.
Mhm.
That's so, I'm gonna imagine that stretch film is gonna be the highest level. So you have to be able to calculate how many pounds of stretch film are you using, and then you pay probably the highest level of tax.
Mm.
So that's gonna be something.
Yeah. So is that going to cause brands to not use stretch wrap on their pallets and move into some of those paper solutions we've seen, which may not be the strongest when we talk about transport and shipping and all that other stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, the ones we've tested have been just okay and been very expensive, but there's some new ones coming out this year that are totally incredible, very comparable to low
And they're
density
actually plastic.
polyethylene.
No.
Yeah, they're actually well, and there's a way to look at that using low density polyethylene stretch film that is made from PCR 100%, or at least a high, I think 30% is the highest I've seen so far. So that's another way to improve your footprint.
Yeah. I know I've talked to a ton of brands about just collecting that at, the delivery at your distribution center. You can collect all of that stuff and you can recycle it in bulk. That part's easy. It's just a process.
Mm-hmm.
Costco is one of the best at that. If you've
Yeah.
ever seen in the back of their shops, it's an impressive recycling facility with corrugated and stretch film, and but that material can be turned into all kinds of things, including new stretch film.
Yep.
So,
and having had Ryan Fox on here before, we've talked about really the majority of the recycled paper is actually industrial. It's not.
Yeah. What did you
It's
say?
not from-
80% of it or something like that? Yeah, it's a huge percentage.
Yeah, it's not the curbside.
No.
It's the people we're talking to in this podcast that need to be a part of it.
I love this.
Absolutely.
Kurt. We talked about this, Evelio,
This weekend.
in Phoenix at the AZ Lemonade stand. It says glass is great, but its weight and carbon footprint is massive, and it's not an incredibly strong structure. We asked Kyle at AZ Lemonade stand, which, by the way, has an incredible product. It's so good. They were in a glass mason jar. We're like, I think Evelio, you asked him if you had to start over again. And he's like, I would not use glass at all. Like, it's been awesome for us, but it's hard to work with. And
it's heavy. It breaks. It requires a lot of, padding and reinforcement and shipping. Like it gets complicated.
And it's made from sand, from riverbeds, and like.
Yeah. Were you able to open those jars, by the way?
Oh my gosh. I went and bought I had to buy a pair of like sticky gloves. So I was like trying to get mine open. I was like, gosh, I can't get this. So I went and bought some gloves. He mentioned it though.
Yeah.
He did tell us like this is a problem.
They changed their lids.
We've switched lids because it's been such a problem.
Yeah. Like my kid's like, hey, can you open this? I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, I'm cranking this thing. I thought I like threw my neck out.
Yeah.
It's like these lids on these glass jars have like a rubberized coating on the threads. So it grips, and as you squeeze it, it tightens the grip and it creates all this friction. It was insane. I thought I was like, I'm like wimp dad of the year over here. That's why I was asking Adam, like, did you have a problem too? What is better, PE or BOPP for labels?
It depends on what it's going on to. And there was also a question about digital printing on the forest film label. That's fine too. That labels are non-really recyclable, and just it's what is the adhesive combination with the label, and is it going to impact recycling negatively on plastic or glass? That's really the question that you're asking with labels. And then there's a whole bunch that I could go into because labels are packaging.
Some people think. All right, guys, we're going a little over here. Last comment from Ryan Fox. Up to 90% of OCC comes from mass merchants, grocery store, and other commercial venues, not your home curbside recycling.
And Ryan is obviously down with OCC.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you know him, he's down with OCC.
If you know him, he is.
That's
hey guys,
right.
I gotta run.
We gotta go. We all gotta go. Guys, thanks so much. Leave us a comment, subscribe,
Happy New
do all
Year.
the good stuff. You too, guys. It was good catching up. We'll see you next week.